Alright, welcome back to Jay's Retro Toys and Games, the channel that dives deep into the golden age of gaming and then the nostalgic treasures that define childhoods across generations. Today's journey takes a look at one of the most iconic accessories in video game history, the Nes Zapper Lightgun. Now, this simple yet revolutionary device transformed living rooms into shooting galleries, introduced millions to interactive gaming, and became a symbol of Nintendo's creative dominance during the 1980s. The Zapper wasn't just a toy, it was a technological marvel that bridged the gap between arcade excitement and home entertainment, forever changing how players interacted with their screens. Today, it's episode number 102 on this Thursday, February 12th, 2026. The NES Zapper Lightgun graces it with its presence right now. Welcome to episode number 102 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I am your host, Jason DeCanio, on this Thursday, February 12th, 2026, 2 days before Valentine's Day, and I hope you got your sweetheart something very special. But if you happen to give this sweetheart of yours an NES Zapper Lightgun, you might get an interesting reaction. And that's what we're talking about today on this edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. The NES Accessories continues with the Zapper Lightgun. And long before the NES Zapper became a household name, the concept of light gun gaming had already been around for decades. The earliest versions of this technology appeared in the 1930s when mechanical shooting gallery games used light-sensitive sensors to detect hits. These early systems relied on photoelectric cells that could register when a beam of light struck a target, creating a primitive but fascinating form of interactive entertainment. By the 1970s, as video games began to emerge, arcade machines like Duck Hunt and Wild Gunman used similar principles, employing photodiodes to detect light from CRT screens. Nintendo, which had already established itself as a major player in the arcade industry, recognized the potential of bringing this technology into the home. The company's engineers began experimenting with ways to make light gun gaming accessible to families, setting the stage for what would become one of the most memorable peripherals in gaming history. When Nintendo launched the Family Computer, or Famicom, in Japan of 1983, it included a light gun accessory known as the Famicom gun. Now, this early version was designed to work with games like Wild Gunman, allowing players to shoot at on-screen bandits in a Wild West setting. However, when Nintendo prepared to release the system in North America as the NES in '85, the company decided to redesign the accessory to better appeal to Western audiences. The result was the NES Zapper, a sleek, futuristic-looking pistol that came in a gray and orange color scheme. The Zapper was bundled with the NES console in the action set, which included the now legendary Duck Hunt cartridge. For many players, this was their first introduction to interactive shooting games at home. The Zapper's design was both functional and visually striking, embodying the futuristic optimism of 1980s gaming culture. It wasn't just a controller, it was a statement piece that made players feel like they were part of the action. The NES Zapper's technology was deceptively simple yet incredibly effective for its time, and when the player pulled the trigger, the television screen would momentarily flash black and white frames. The white areas represented the targets, and the Zapper's built-in photodiode or sensor detected whether it was pointed at a bright area. If the sensor registered light during the correct frame, the game counted it as a hit. This clever system relied entirely on the timing and refresh rate of CRT televisions, which refreshed images line by line in a predictable pattern. And because of this, the zapper could determine exactly where the player was aiming based on when the light was detected. However, this also meant that the zapper only worked with CRT screens. As television technology evolved and flat panel displays became the norm, the zapper's functionality faded into obsolescence. Yes, still for its time, it was a brilliant piece of engineering that made players feel like sharpshooters in their own homes. The NES Zapper's design went through several iterations before reaching its final norm, or its final form, and the original Japanese Famicom gun resembled a realistic revolver, complete with a metallic finish and detailed grip. However, when Nintendo prepared to release the accessory in North America, concerns about toy gun safety led to a redesign. The NES Zapper was given a more futuristic sci-fi appearance with a smooth gray body and bright orange accents. Later, in response to stricter U.S. toy regulations, Nintendo released an all-orange version to ensure it couldn't be mistaken for a real firearm. This design not only made the Zapper safer, but it also gave it a distinctive, instantly recognizable look that became part of Nintendo's brand identity. The Zapper's ergonomic shape and satisfying trigger pull made it feel substantial in the player's hand, enhancing the sense of immersion and fun. No discussion of the NES Zapper would be complete without mentioning Duck Hunt, the game that defined the accessory for an entire generation. In Duck Hunt, players aimed at ducks flying across the screen, trying to shoot them down before they escaped. The game's simple premise, combined with its addictive gameplay and the unforgettable laughter of the mocking dog when players missed, made it an instant classic. But Duck Hunt was just the beginning. Other titles like Hogan's Alley, Wild Gunman, and Bill Barker Bill's Trick Shooting expanded the Zapper's library, offering a variety of shooting challenges that tested players' reflexes and accuracy. These games captured the spirit of arcade gaming and brought it into the living room, giving players the thrill of aiming and shooting without the need for quarters or arcade cabinets. Beyond gaming, the Zapper became a pop culture icon. Its distinctive design appeared in advertisements, television shows, and even films, symbolizing the rise of video gaming in the 1980s. For many, the Zapper represented the excitement of a new era, one where technology and imagination collided to create something truly magical. The NES Zapper wasn't just a gaming accessory. It became a cultural symbol of the 1980s. It appeared in commercials, magazine ads, and even television shows, often used to represent the futuristic world of video gaming. The Zapper's sleek design in association with Duck Hunt made it instantly recognizable, even to those who didn't own an NES. It became a shorthand for the gaming revolution, a visual cue that represented fun, innovation, and the growing influence of Nintendo in popular culture. The Zapper also inspired countless parodies and references in later media, from cartoons to movies, cementing its place as one of the most iconic gaming peripherals ever created. But as the years went on, and technology advanced, the limitations of the NES Zapper became more apparent. The accessory's reliance on CRT technology meant that it couldn't function properly on newer television screens. By the late 90s and early 2000s, as flat-panel LCD and plasma displays became standard, the Zapper's light detection system no longer worked. Nintendo and other companies began exploring new ways to replicate the experience of aiming and shooting in games. This evolution eventually led to the development of motion-based controllers, such as the Wii Remote, which used infrared sensors and accelerometers to track movement. That's a mouthful right there. But in many ways, the Wii Remote carried on the legacy of the Zapper, offering players a new form of interactive aiming that built upon the same principles of immersion and physical engagement. While the Zapper itself faded into history, its influence could be felt in nearly every motion-controlled gaming innovation that followed. The NES Zapper's legacy extended far beyond its own lifespan. its concept of physical interaction with on-screen elements laid the groundwork for future innovations in gaming technology. The idea of pointing and shooting directly at the screen evolved into motion tracking, infrared aiming, and even virtual reality systems. The Wii Remote, PlayStation Move, and modern VR controllers all owe a debt to the Zapper's pioneering approach to player immersion. Nintendo's later creation, the Wii Zapper, a plastic shell that housed the Wii Remote, was a direct homage to the original, proving that the spirit of the 1980s light gun still lived on in modern gaming. Today, the NES Zapper is a prized collectible among retro gaming enthusiasts. Both the gray and orange versions are sought after, with box sets and complete action set bundles commanding high prices on the collector's market. And beyond its monetary value, the Zapper holds deep sentimental meaning for those who grew up during the NES era. It represents a time when gaming was simple, imaginative, and full of wonder. Many collectors proudly display their Zappers as centerpieces of their retro setups, not just as gaming accessories, but as artifacts of cultural history. And the Zapper's enduring appeal lies in its ability to evoke memories of childhood excitement and the thrill of discovering something new. The NES Zapper Lightgun remains one of the most iconic accessories in video game history. It transformed the way players interacted with their screens, brought arcade-style shooting into the home, and helped define the identity of the Nintendo Entertainment System. And though its technology has long been surpassed, its legacy continues to inspire new generations of gamers and developers alike. The Zapper's story is a testament to Nintendo's creativity and the enduring power of innovation in gaming. From the laughter of the Duck Hunt dog to the satisfying click of the trigger, the NES Zapper will forever hold a special place in the hearts of those who experienced its magic. And that wraps up today's episode on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Don't forget to hit that subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification button so you never miss another deep dive into the classics that shaped gaming history. I'm Jason DeCanio. Thank you very much for this 102nd episode. We'll be back with another week of more NES accessories as we continue to build our library of episodes here on Jay's All TV channel. Till then, have a great night. See you next week. Bye for now.